John now.
All right, thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So we are excited about our new student unit database. It is allowing us to capture much more data about our students and more accurate data. Our old student unit database provided very little information about who the students were, and it was also very susceptible to mistakes, typos. Different supervisors would enter different names. This is hopefully eliminating some of those possibilities for errors to be during the data entry process. With the new system, we can track, as I was saying, a lot more data about our students. We're tracking a lot of demographic information such as age and race, gender, faith group, purely for statistical reasons to make sure that we're meeting our diversity targets. And we can also track completion rates with this new system, something that the Department of Education has been asking us to do for a while now. And finally, with students creating their own profiles, we are collecting contact information about them so that we can hopefully continue an ongoing relationship with them. And in the future, they'll be able to log in to look at their past units, print their own transcripts. We're having a slight delay on that currently because, as you know, we had to import the old student unit database into this database that was over 80,000 records with very little identifying information. So it's taking us, your tiny staff, quite a bit of time to go through all those records and get it cleaned up and ready for it to be able to generate auto transcripts. So the new process is a two-step process. First, the students enroll, create accounts if they already haven't, and enroll. And the second part is where the supervisor will come in to register credit for that unit. Students enrolling, there's currently no policy, but what we're suggesting everyone do is students should be enrolling by the end of orientation. Once a student completes orientation, they are considered enrolled in the program. So at that point, we need to track whether they complete that unit or not. Hopefully, it'll become policy of all of our centers that enrollment is part of the orientation process. So to begin, I'm going to show you what a student would do to set up an account and to enroll in a unit.
And John, as you're doing that, I just want to reiterate one important point, and that's the use of Appendix 2, because we need to know where supervisors are in order to have the system work, because the system is very specific about the supervisor who is supervising a unit and what centers the supervisor is linked to. So even if you have a contract supervisor for a unit, we need you to do an Appendix 2 beforehand, otherwise the students cannot enroll. And it needs to be linked to the supervisor who's linked to the center in order for it to show up on all the different places it needs to show up.
That's right. The database is, everyone is linked now, students, centers, supervisors, and that's what's allowing students to enroll with their specific supervisor and center. So if our records aren't right, then the enrollment process and registration process is going to act wonky. Okay, so to begin, a student can either come up at the very top to sign in, where my cursor is circling around, or they can come over to My ACPE on this main navigation bar, come down to For Students, and click on Enroll in CPE Unit.
Also, another piece to be mindful of that we've had some people run into problems, if a student is going to use your computer or one within your office that is logged into the website, we have to make sure that you've logged out of the website. If you don't log out, they're going to register you or enroll you in a unit of CPE and not themselves. So their account will never show up. It'll be through you. So making sure that nobody is enrolled there is an important piece as you're looking to do this.
Right. So if this is a new student to, brand new student to the website, they're going to land on this page where they're going to create their account. They'll be filling in their name, some contact information, and This part right here is very important. This is a CPE center. If a student starts to type the name of their center, it should pre-populate a list of active centers. So for example, I typed Emory, even though they're in the system as spiritual health at Emory. By typing Emory, it still finds a center, and then I need to click that to select it. This will allow the student to be enrolled at the center and then see a list of active supervisors associated with the center. Your username is always going to be the email address you put on file. So we also encourage you to tell your students to use personal emails, not the email that the center might assign them. Because if a student goes on to different centers, they're going to still need to be able to access these accounts. And if they're using, for example, if they were to be enrolling at Emory and they're using an Emory email address and they're no longer there, it can create problems. But if they do use an Emory address, it's not the end of the world. They can always update their profile later. I already have an account, a student test account. So I'm going to go to, if you already have an account, you can start here. So as I was saying, once the account's created, the student will use this account every time they enroll. Students need to enroll at the beginning of every unit they take, whether it's at different centers or if it's during a residency. At the end of orientation of each unit, they need to enroll for that unit so that the supervisor can give them credit at the end.
Right, so if it's a 4-unit residency or a 3-unit residency, they enroll 4 or 3 times. Our database doesn't look at it as a residency and that it's all one contiguous thing. It looks at individual units that are taken. And the maximum credit you'll be able to give is 1 unit. So they'd have to do that multiple times.
So with my student test account, I am now logged into the database or into the website. You can see up here it says hi and the name there. This first section is asking you to verify the accredited center that you're enrolling in. Or if you're enrolling in a future unit and you're now at a new center, it's time to update it. So here it says my accredited center. And I am currently linked to, we have the national office set up as a test center. But if I needed to update this, I can click on this blue pencil here, which is the edit button. And then in this window, by starting it again, to type the center's name, whatever that might be, is going to find all the active centers with that name. And then I need to make sure that I select the center that I want, and I would click Save and Close, and the center would update. I'm going to cancel this because I want to stay with our test center, though. The next section, we're asking for a little bit of demographic information, as I was talking about earlier. So again, this is all completely voluntary. If the student is comfortable providing it to us, we will only be using it without identifying information attached to it to track our diversity targets and make sure that we're meeting our goals. If they're not comfortable completing it, they can just click next and move on. And that's it for this first page. We're halfway done. This is the final step, which can be a little bit tricky, so we've tried to put some explanation up here. This supervisor reference table here is where you'll find your supervisor's name, which is why it was so important that we make sure that we are enrolled with the proper center on the page before. I need to take note of my supervisor's name and their ID number and write that ID number down, 55042. Below it, these are units here that I've already completed as a student. I can see my past students here, or I can see my past units here. But now I need to add my new enrollment record.
But the only units that you're able to see are the ones that you've actually enrolled in that are linked to your account.
Correct.
So because of the merger of the migration of the database, if we have not yet merged the students' accounts, not all of the records will appear. So what a student should not do is re-enroll in old units. If there's a question, they should contact us because we can look it up and we can go ahead and merge their accounts. But if they re-enroll and you give credit, it will trigger late units because it's going to think that it was from several years ago and really creates a mess in the database. So please do not encourage your students to do that. Let them be in touch with us.
Absolutely. They should only be enrolling in current units because it creates a huge headache and more work for us to clean up when we're already cleaning up a lot of records. So thank you for mentioning that. So it's time for me to enter my new enrollment record because I'm about to start my next unit of CPE. I'm going to come down here and click on this plus sign, which opens up this new window. I need to put in my start date of my unit and the end date. We encourage you to inform your students of this information so that they can pretty much go click, click, click through the enrollment process as part of your orientation process. If they don't know the exact information, it's not a big deal because you as a supervisor can edit it when you register the units, most of these fields. I'm going to pick my start date, my end date, my level of CPE, and this is where I'm going to put in my supervisor ID from the previous screen. If I forgot to write it down or I missed it, I can peek by moving this box around here. But this is what allows, this is what links my student account to the supervisor account. And then we ask for the faith group one more time. And that's because we've come to notice that students are often changing their faith groups during their CPE career. And this is just one more way that we're tracking data and seeing who our students are and how they're evolving through the process. As you can see, all these fields have the red asterisk next to them, and that means that they are required fields. I have filled them all in. It's time to hit save and close, and you'll see a new enrollment record now has popped up. I've chose 4/4/2016. This is the one I just created right here. At the bottom right, I can click finish, and it says thank you. My enrollment has been submitted. Those are all the thank you messages for all the other times that I've enrolled. And the student's done. He or she can now log out or do something else on the website. One thing I would point out, I guess the enrollment's done, but I'd point out for the students is, and this is for all members, under My ACPE, if you come to My Profile, you can also upload pictures and update most of your contact information here. Look at your previous orders. If you have upcoming events such as conferences, past events that you've attended. If you have dues, you can pay them here. And as I was saying, you can update all these different fields. So that's it for the students so far.
And John, just to remind everybody who might have joined us after we did the initial piece, if you have questions and you move your mouse on the screen, you'll see a Q&A button at the bottom. That'll open up a window. If you click on that, and you can type your question in and we can answer that. So if anybody has questions at this point, please don't hesitate to type those in.
Okay. We'll answer them as we see them popping up, but I'm going to move forward. I'm going to sign out as a student. And now we're going to, oh, yeah, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to sign back in for 1 second. There was one thing I did want to show you. Oh, sorry. There is step-by-step instructions with screenshots that you can use. These are all the steps we just went through, highlighting and circling which buttons to click on. And you can use this as part of your orientation process if it would help you. Okay. So now that the student's enrolled and we're at the end of the unit, it's time for the supervisor to provide credit. Again, they can sign in using this sign in up here, or they can come over to My ACPE on the blue navigation bar go down to for supervisors, and register student units. Time for them to log in. And the screen comes up where I can register my units. This list here are all the students actively in my unit that I can give credit for. If the student's name is not appearing here, it's likely that they did not complete the enrollment correctly, meaning they selected the wrong center, the wrong supervisor, they didn't do it, or maybe you accidentally already gave them credit and they're not showing up on your list, but for some reason, they're not here. So if I want to apply credit, I come down to the student's name, and I'm going to click Edit here. At this point, I can edit the unit and give credit. The type of unit, standard or extended, and this is where I give credit. I have to give 0, half a credit, or 1 or full credit. If I don't fill in this field, the unit will stay here and will not be complete. I can edit the level that they entered, if they entered it incorrectly, or maybe they started at level 1, but you decided it was a level 2 unit. And I can correct the date if it was incorrect. Once I click Update and I've applied credit, this unit will disappear from this screen. It's no longer on your active student roster. See how that disappeared? And then I would just go on to the next one.
An important thing to note is that you have one opportunity to do the updating. So you don't come in to change it from a whole credit, full credit, to a half credit, because that's what they're doing. You would still only do that at the end when you're registering the credit for at the end of the unit. So any updates along the way takes it off of this screen.
Right.
In edit, you have to let us know if there's corrections that have to be made.
If you did make a mistake, which is sure at some point is going to happen, you just want to send an email here to enrollment@acpe.edu, and we'll go into the database and correct it. And you should only be entering credit for the unit in that window at the end of the unit, that week or so before, and then you have the 45 days after, just like in the old system. If I cancel, the person stays here. Or if I edited certain fields and try to do an update, but didn't give credit, see, it keeps stopping me. Okay, so now that I've given credit, the person's gone, but I want to see my old students who I've done in the past, or to make sure that I had completed my units, or I had done my registration successfully. Right here it tells me I can use this look up my students feature, which is also here on the drop-down menu. If I wasn't already logged in, it would have forced me to log in at this point. This query allows me to look up students by name or by date range, or by the other supervisors attached to my center. The search field, the more information you put into these fields, the narrower the search is going to be. So if you're not sure exactly the date, leave those blank. If you're not sure how to spell the student's name, leave it blank. For example, I'm just going to type my last name as a CP supervisor, click Find, and now I can see all the students who have done CP with me. I can sort by the student's name if I click this, by their ID, by the different supervisors. Obviously, these fields are all the same, so they're not going to change. But by clicking these headings, it's going to sort by that column. If I want to look at dates, the beginning dates, the end dates, the date that I came here and added them, the level of CPEs, the credits, I can sort by all these fields. The reason that the supervisor last name search is here is because if there's only one, if there were other supervisors attached to the same center, especially for those of you in large systems, I could check on my other colleagues to see what they're doing and just search for, make sure that their units have been entered. The other nice feature about this is whenever you see these symbols here, this allows you to export the data that you're looking at. So if I want it, I could export this list to an Excel spreadsheet for my own records. By just clicking that, it downloads there. It actually popped up on my other screen here. But for some reason I can't drag it over. But anyway, this data is exportable for you to do with as you need.
And just to reiterate what John said about the searches, you'll notice the first search field is begin date. It looks like it should be a begin date and an end date, but it really is only the begin date range that you want to be searching for. So if you don't know it, you want to leave it blank. And if you don't put anything in the search field, many of them, and you just click the find button, and you have a center with multiple supervisors, it will turn up all of the supervisors who are linked to that center. So then you can see, and by clicking on the unit column, which is the second from the right, you can sort it so the blank ones show up, and then you see who has not yet entered their units. So you can see yours, you can see your colleagues there as well. If you're the overall director, you're able to check and see who's enrolled, who's gotten credit, and everything else. You're not able to edit it, but you are able to see it.
Right.
The less information you put in, the more information you get back.
And for example, with the state range, if I just wanted to see what was going on for this year, I can type in the dates. I can also use these little calendar tools. I can just see all of 2016. And that eliminated all those with the past dates. So that's pretty much how you go through. That's how the student goes through and enrolls, and then that's how the supervisor come in and gives credit at the end or registers the unit. Do we have any questions at this point?
If you have questions, remember, if you move your mouse at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A button. Click on that, and you can type in.
Oh, one more thing. Again, if you need help or directions with visuals, you can use this tool. It was right here at the top. For more detailed instructions, click here, and it gives you this web page with step-by-step instructions and screenshots, highlighting where you need to click. And again, you're only going, for the most part, you're only going to be seeing data from, a lot of the data still needs to be cleaned up from years past of that old data that was imported. So it might not be showing up in these searches yet, but current data you should definitely be seeing. If you're not, then something's going wrong.
And because the database is so specific, even one digit wrong or something like that is going to prevent it from showing up. So even if it allows you to give credit, if it doesn't show up on your list afterwards and to look up my students, then there's also another piece of data that was missing. So it is trying to double check, and we run reports each week to try to catch those. But if you see somebody doesn't show up, let us know, and then we can make sure that the record is accurate in the database. Okay, yes, so we have a question about if the student did not enroll in the beginning, and then you want to give credit, you don't see the student, can the student go ahead and enroll at that late time? The system does allow you to backdate for the unit. So as long as it's a current unit that was never registered before, they can go in and put the dates, like for example, we could put a date back to September to January now. The system will allow you to do that and then go ahead and give credit to that student. And that's the best way to do it, because if the student is no longer with you, you'll have to send us all the information. We do it by hand. But if the student can actually set up the account because they're still there, that's the best way for us to have the information, as well as to make sure the unit gets credited properly.
Thank you. That was a good question.
And other questions, go ahead and type in. And if not, please know that both John and I are available, as is Kim, who works with the Student Unit Database. If you find something incorrect, you find something you don't know, there's usually, we've learned a lot of what the quick fixes are based on the kind of question. So we generally know if you describe problem X, we have solution Y. There are things we don't know, but there are many things that we've come to see as common things that happen. So please do reach out to us and let us know if there's anything that we can do to be helpful. So seeing no other questions, I think we are going to go ahead and finish up. So thank you all for joining us. and wishing you a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating.